Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of TVG Talk. My name is Paco Trevino, and today, as always, I'm joined by Lauro Chapa.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be talking about the recent announcement of Resident Evil 7 Cloud for the Nintendo Switch. Now, so far Capcom has announced that it'll be coming to Japan, so we don't know about a North American or European release. But the gist of it is that we'll be seeing a release that's cloud-based, as the name suggests, and the concept is that you're not limited by the specs of the Switch, but you always need to be connected online to play it. It's streaming it, not really playing it from the console like you would with, let's say, Resident Evil Revelations. And so, of course, there's some complications and some advantages to this, which we'll be talking about. We'll also be addressing the future of streaming games to your devices in this video. And, Lauro, without further ado, what was your first reaction to this announcement?
My first reaction was really impressed. Of course, we have been hearing about this kind of technology coming to gaming, but more as a experimental thing, more as a thing of the future. And I really didn't thought that we would see it so soon in the Switch lifetime. So I was really impressed to hear about this.
Yeah, and that's at the same time very impressive and very exciting, but also comes with some doubt.
Right.
We did hear that Resident Evil 7 would be coming to the Switch
Yeah.
way before this. There was, I don't remember if it was a leak or a rumor or what it was, but I do remember that they were saying that Resident Evil 7 would be coming to the Switch. Now, as someone that played through Resident Evil 7 not too recently ago, it doesn't seem like it would be too hard on the system, so I'm actually curious as to why Capcom decided to make this particular game a cloud-based game. Perhaps they felt that it absolutely needed that fidelity to be frightening. I don't know. So this is actually not the only Switch game that has a cloud infrastructure. We can also look at Phantasy Star Cloud by Sega. It actually has some Breath of the Wild skins for some avatars, so the game has been very prominent in Japan, I believe. It's also Japan exclusive, by the way. So I'm very interested to see how people react to it. Now, in the case of Phantasy Star Cloud, it makes sense because it's an MMO, but Resident Evil 7 is a completely single-player experience. Now, how do you feel it will affect? I mean, I guess handheld is off the question, right?
At least handheld, not in your home or where you have a strong Wi-Fi signal readily available.
Yeah, like maybe perhaps in your house, or I'm sorry, not in your house, in your office, or if you're in one of those ultra fancy buses, but that's also a stretch in my
Right.
opinion.
Or planes or even trains now.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean those are luxuries. I mean, not everyone has
the money to.
the means to get all this. I mean, there's some cities in Japan and the US that are starting to wanting to give free Wi-Fi to everyone, but it's on really early stages.
Yeah,
so,
it's very poor signal.
Yeah,
Like you can
Yeah.
do social media in there, but that's it, basically. And read
yeah.
stuff.
So I mean,
No, you were saying?
looking to the future, it's like, yeah, of course that it'll be something feasible for the future, but right now, yeah, I mean, taking it out of your house would be, I mean, not an option.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I know that like I have the luxury of having a Switch and a PS4, and having Resident Evil 7 on a PS4. And personally, having that game there in the disc, I don't need Wi-Fi to boot it up and play it, and it has better specs. So my question is for someone like me, and which is basically everyone that has played 7 until now, is why would I bother with the Switch version if it needs the Wi-Fi? It has lower specs, and it lost the possibility of being a convenient handheld. They also mentioned that you will need a subscription. You won't actually pay for it. Now, I don't remember the
Right.
exact numbers, but
I can do. I think that you got a free trial. I don't remember for how long, and the subscription was $20. I mean, the equivalent in yen, of course.
right,
It was about $20 for, I think, 180 days. I mean, it was plenty of time to finish the game and even more.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, the problem that I find with that is that if you had unlimited access to the cloud save for $20, I think it's an okay figure. But being
Yes.
a subscription, it's rough. It's on the very expensive side, I'd say. We're back on renting
Um,
games.
right, right. It's basically that, a rent. But I mean, I don't want to like say that you're never ever gonna replay that game, but in a span of more than 180 days, like, do you see yourself playing Resident Evil 7 again after the 180th day you bought it for PS4, for example? Do you see yourself, I don't know, putting it up again and beating it again?
Well, certainly not soon after, but I've
Right,
played through Resident Evil 4 a handful of times by this point, a number of times. I played it on the
right, right.
PS2, on the Wii, actually the Wii version, I think that I beat twice. So, yeah, beating a game multiple times, I mean, Resident Evil 4 is a very different game, but it's one of the few
Right.
instances that I could tell you, well, I have replayed Resident Evil, and
Sure, but part of that is because they re-release it on different consoles and add a bit more stuff and whatnot.
well, actually, in the case of 4, it's kind of funny because um I think that now with the recent remasters for PS4 and Xbox One, I think that they finally made a better edition, but for a very long time I'd consider the Wii version the definitive version, which is what I had,
Right.
or what I have, I should say. I still have it.
Yeah.
And I mean, but that's one example. I've replayed a lot of games. I mean, I don't know how many times I've beaten Mega Man 2, if we're talking about Capcom games, for example. But I mean, it's very interesting. I wonder if it'll have any kind of extra features on Switch. I mean, so far they've only talked about the DLC, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I wonder if this is something that Capcom is going to expand upon, almost like make a downloadable service of their games.
Maybe they're gearing up to that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the next game they do this with, I mean, if they succeed in Resident Evil 7, of course, would be Monster Hunter World.
Right, actually, Monster Hunter World would be a very curious example because that's a game that, unless you do some serious work to make it possible on the Switch, I don't see it happening. That's why we've gotten
Right.
the Generations HD port.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, certainly very, very interesting, because of the possibilities. And I mean, even if it's with a cloud service, having Resident Evil 7 on the go, and I imagine that looking remarkably similar to PS4, that's very
Yeah.
interesting. And the other thing that I was like, when I read this, I was thinking of the possibilities. I remembered a specs sheet that explained that the Switch is actually capable of streaming 4K. So, in theory, I don't know if it's possible, but in theory, it could stream Resident Evil 7 in 4K. I don't know if that's going to be the
Right.
case, but it would be certainly interesting to see how it turns out.
Mm, sure. I mean, you would then have to have a really stable internet connection for that. But yeah, in theory, it could.
I mean, yeah, just talking from a very technical standpoint, since it's a possibility on
A
Switch.
theoretical.
Excuse me?
Hmm. Yeah, theoretical, like with the specs that the Switch
Right, right.
offers.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I don't want to get people's hopes up. I'm just saying if I'm just wondering if it's possible. Now, what's interesting to me is that these of well, I've said interesting a lot today, but a very curious aspect is that Nintendo has not really tried this cloud service thing on the Switch so far. They've done so in previous
Uh huh.
generations with the Satellaview and whatnot, but the Switch has not seen that. So it would be interesting to see if Nintendo is working on any of this. I mean, the E3 is around the corner, so
Yeah. Um, I don't know if they would. I mean, Nintendo is not one to really follow trends unless it becomes like a norm and then later they adopt it. Uh, so I don't know if they would try this because their games are selling really good and Switch is selling really good. I don't know if it would benefit them or affect them.
well, something that Nintendo is very careful about is not undermining the features of their consoles. And I do think that maybe the cloud service would undermine the portability of the Switch. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why they haven't tried it. But when you're talking about trends, well, while there is some experimentation from Nvidia and other people have tried this, it's not really
Yeah.
a trend. It's still in a very experimental age, and Nintendo sometimes gets very experimental.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, um, do you have Resident Evil 7 on, well, any platform at the moment?
No, I don't. I have played some in your house actually, and the demo that came out, and it seems like a good game.
Yeah, it's very good. It's completely different from what you would call a traditional Resident Evil, but
Hmm.
it is very interesting. Um, that word again. But what I'm
But it is.
what I'm getting at, yeah, it is. But what I'm getting at is, would you consider getting the game?
Uh, I don't think I would. Uh, I'm like I don't know if what you call me, but I'm not really like on these streaming trends that happen. Like this happened to music and it happened to movies, and I really got to that trend later on, if I'm being honest, and because I really didn't want to change how I consumed those things. Right now, I love to own games and have. I mean, just recently I accepted the idea of digitally buying games because I couldn't like accept that I wouldn't be buying physical games and really I haven't bought a physical game since I don't know how much time. I mean, I bought my PS4 before my Switch, and I started buying physical games for the PS4. And as soon as I got my Switch, I started buying digital games for the PS4 too, even though I really don't have the memory for it. But it's just so convenient. So yeah, I don't know if right away like I jump with this, especially because it is not a game that super interests me. Maybe if I don't know if it was Smash Brothers, I mean, there's no way I wouldn't buy it right away. But this is not really like I don't have a rush to buy it, and if I did, I buy it in PS4 honestly. So yeah, I maybe try the trial if it's available for us too. Because I when I saw the time you got for the trial, I think it was 15 days or so. I think that's enough to play the whole game. Maybe I'm wrong with the time, but when I saw it, I was like, I mean, I don't really have to buy it. I think I have enough time, but yeah, if that's not the case, I don't see myself trying it anytime soon.
Wait, it's 15 days?
That's what I thought. I mean, I can check really fast.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you really wanna beat the game in 15 days, it's absolutely possible. I mean, you would probably get like
yeah.
nightmares or something, but yeah, it's possible, very very possible. Yeah, I'm honestly surprised it's so many days.
Oh, I'm actually super wrong. It's 15 minutes.
Oh, 15 minutes. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah, 15 minutes gives you a taste. Yeah, it gives you like a taste.
But I said before about the, what I said before about the 180 days for $20. That is correct.
If we were gonna talk about like renting a game, which is not a thing anymore, it is a bit on the expensive side now. So going a little bit back to the point, I was asking you. Okay, so Resident Evil 7 is maybe not a game that super interests you, but I don't know, maybe if it was. I mean, you said the Super Smash Brothers, but something that's multi-platform that you have on the PS4 and on the Switch on a cloud system. Would you go with the cloud system, or would you say like, no, man, I'll go PS4? I mean, it's just more convenient. So, where would you go then if it was a game that you liked more? If you were like,
I definitely.
if you were like, I have to get this, but I have the option, where would I take it?
Yeah, I definitely go with the PS4. I mean, right now I can't get used to the idea of streaming games like that. Yeah, I had to go with owning the game.
I mean, the very big difference that I find is that if you wait for a sale, I do think that you could find Resident Evil 7 for PS4 for $20. I think that right now it's running for like 40, but if you really look around and wait around a little bit, you definitely could do $20. And I mean, there's one point. It's a bit. I'm sorry. It's a bit expensive for a game that you don't technically own, that restricts you when you can play it. And the interesting and weird thing is that it's not even the RM. It's completely dependent on the internet. So, I mean, I would probably try it, but it just seems so inconvenient. And what you were saying about downloadable games, in my case, was sort of a gateway thing with the virtual console and digital only games, that I kind of started getting a feel for, hey, like for example on the 3DS, like, oh, I have installed, I don't know, like all these eShop titles, and then I started seeing that they were more convenient and less expensive on the eShop than on retail, at least here in Mexico. So yeah, I started buying them digitally, and to the point where I have more digital games that are available physically on the 3DS than I do on cartridge. Whereas I started buying cartridges, and later I decided to move on to digital. And like you were saying, with the Switch, I have, I think, 4 physical games, and three of those are special editions. So if it's not a
Right.
special edition, I say like whatever. I'll just go digitally.
Yeah.
Um, but that's different because there you do own the game. You can play it whenever. This you can't. Where do you think that they could take the digital services? For example, Capcom themselves. Do you think that they will be interested in expanding the audience, or I mean the repertoire? You touched a little bit upon that earlier, so I wanted you, if you could maybe expand upon that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is to test the waters. I think that this is a weird game to do it for, like we were saying before. Why wouldn't do it with a game that basically requires Wi-Fi, like Monster Hunter World? I mean, it doesn't, but it's a much different experience to do it online than just locally. So I don't know, like, if this will affect Capcom's decisions. They've been known to do this, like, base it all on just a one instance. But if it goes well, I think that they'll keep trying it with more. Like I said, I think Monster Hunter World will be next. Maybe Street Fighter V would be next. The problem with me and them bringing Street Fighter is that I've heard that streaming games has a lot of latency, even if you have like a good internet connection and whatnot. And this is coming from people in the United States or Japan, where they have much better internet connections than Mexico, for example. And they say they're having problems with latency. I don't know if they could pull it off with a fighting game where people want to have the least amount of lag possible, and the Switch is also known for not having the strongest Wi-Fi signal. Like, for instance, I have to play pretty much beside my router, so it doesn't lag or whatnot.
Yeah, that's
So
very
yeah,
true actually. That's a very very good point. The Switch has a terrible wireless connection when compared to something like the PS4. Uh, so yeah, that's even worse for this particular release. Now,
yeah,
something that actually clicks a little bit with me in terms of why they would pick Resident Evil 7 in particular is that it's a relatively slow paced game. It's very visual.
yeah,
It doesn't
right,
require too much input, and since it's a one player game, it's easy to just. Uh, I guess it's easier for the system to just feed you the one game instead of having a party your with your group in Monster Hunter World. So I do see why they would pick this game in terms of the requirements.
yeah.
But
That's absolutely right.
but the weird thing that I don't understand why they would pick Resident Evil 7 is it's a mature game, and it's a very unappealing one visually. And I mean, it's grotesque. It's voluntarily grotesque. So I'm wondering. Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder. It's weird trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And well, and in the case of Street Fighter Five, I think they couldn't be able to port that particular game to the Switch, or could they?
Right. It's a PS4 exclusive, kind
Okay,
of console exclusive.
right. So yeah, I mean, maybe fighting games no, maybe Monster Hunter no. I wouldn't want them
So
to.
what then?
I wouldn't want them to do this to Phoenix Wright. I would hate that. I would hate that so
Yeah,
much because I love taking. For example, I would love to take my 3DS to my office or something. I would love to take my 3DS to like the office or to school and just like go through a part of the story and then just close my 3DS and continue later and whatever. Almost like a book. Like oh, I have like 5 minutes. I open it and go through the story a little bit, then close it and get back to it whenever. No need to have online. So, I mean, the thing is, the Switch is probably the worst system to try this with. It
Yeah.
would have been more sensible to do it with PC or PS4, which is where most people or most of these systems are coming to. But anyway, do you have anything else to add to this particular discussion?
I mean, I think that this technology and these ideas are gonna be implemented, but far away in the future. When maybe I don't know if Wi-Fi is readily available everywhere in the world for everyone at super high speeds. I think that then these systems and services are gonna be much more popular than now. And yeah, I think right now they're just testing the waters and seeing what people, the feedback they give them and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess time will tell if this is a one-off type of deal or if it's the start of the future of video games. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that say that oh, music has now Spotify and movies and TV shows have Netflix. Now it's video games' turn to get this type of service, but I don't see it
Yep.
because, like you were saying, the latency and the fidelity and everything, and the download sites. I don't think that we're ready for that kind of technology.
Yeah, we're definitely not ready, but when we are, I think that it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we shall see if it's close or if Capcom is getting a little bit too ambitious here. Anyway, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us in this particular discussion, guys. As always, we definitely want to hear from you. What did you think about this announcement? Do you think it has potential? Do you think it's a waste of a remarkable horror game? Either way, let us know in the comments below. We'll be definitely answering the questions and the answers that you give us. This has been Paco Treviño from the TVGamers, and today I was joined by Laura Chapa.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Until next time, bye bye, guys.